What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I did want to make another video going over Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Now, this one is probably going to raise some mixed opinions, and a lot of players might be like, "Yo, Block, you good, bro? I don't know what you're talking about here, but I really don't think this game being online only is going to be good in basically any way." And I actually want to get into why I think this is going to be a good factor. Now, I do know, once again, guys, I do feel like a lot of players are not going to like the idea of it being online only, which we can all agree having like an offline and an online game mode similar to like Elden Ring is probably the better way to do it, but in the newsletter number 7, they were talking about why the game was going to be online only, or at least being online focused with a connection to like Wi-Fi and stuff like that, because you know you need Wi-Fi to log on to an online game. But for this, guys, it is going to say here, we also created living areas and meeting places. For various reasons, these social features require an infrastructure that is constantly connected to online databases, leaderboards, races, inventories, moderation, live events, anti-cheat measures, and the overall game experience. An internet connection, therefore, is required to play Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. Now, a lot of players are probably going to look at this and go, so just make an offline patch. Like, I don't need leaderboards. I don't need any of this stuff. And don't get me wrong, though. They could have something offline and online similar to, like, Need for Speed Unbound, or even something like Need for Speed Heat, where you don't have to be online to play it. And I do know a lot of that can come down to players worrying about having, like, internet, or they want to travel. They have to bring, like, a hotspot with them to get on the game. The biggest thing here, though, guys, I do like the fact that they did actually say anti-cheat measures. We do know right now every single game has a problem with cheaters. Even Motorfest has it, or people like abusing macros and stuff like that. So maybe something like this is a way for them to break down into it. And we all do know Motorfest is online, so you can argue that they're not doing it, which they probably aren't really going after that stuff. But the biggest thing I would say about the game being online that concerns everybody right now is, well, if the game is online only, are they going to shut it down eventually? Now, I feel like, guys, the crew one was kind of bad the way that they did it. They probably shouldn't have just like removed the game from people's inventories, or like, just said, all right, goodbye game, enjoy it.
Bye, have a great time.
Not the best way to do that, to be honest. Like, enjoy that game. The game's closing on March 31st. It's 10 years later. It is gone. And I feel like a lot of players are like, man, like, I don't want to get test drive, bro. It's online. They're going to do the same thing there. And to be honest, guys, I don't think they're going to actually shut it down like that. Like, we're talking about the game coming out at the end of 2024, most likely in the fall of this year. So if it does come out then, I don't think they're going to shut the game down in 2034. Like, let's be real, by then they're probably going to have an offline patch or something in the game that is most likely going to make it so you can play it. And I feel like it's going to be like an anomaly with how Ubisoft did it, even though we most likely know it is going to happen to the Crew 2 eventually, which is awful. And we probably know what happened to the Crew 1's going to happen to Motorfest, which is probably going to take some players' motivation away from playing the game. But again, guys, I just feel like it's not going to be a big concern in Solar Crown. Like, we all do know the game is going to have hype around it. Everybody's like, why am I going to grind it out if they're just going to shut it down? Like, give me offline or something. I don't want internet connection on it. I do understand that, but at least if the game is online, we're talking about live events and different things going on in the game. And on top of that, though, the game is also going to have HQs and stuff to where you can go meet other players, look at the way they're building their cars and stuff like that. So it is going to be a very interactive game, and I do like that aspect. The fact that you can actually go meet people, race with them, and not even going to lie, guys, we all do know the game is going to be heavily PvP focused, which of course on top of that is going to be, probably going to be the online factor of it. I'm actually not upset about that. Now, if there is going to be AI, some events to where they're not going to be fully PvP based, which I would almost guarantee that is going to be, there isn't a bad thing. Everybody right now in Motorfest wants more PvP game modes. Here we are over 8 months into the game's life cycle, and not one PvP game mode has been added. Kind of a problem. Whereas if something like, let's say, Solar Crown actually has a lot of PvP stuff, at least there's never going to be a boring, like, desert road in there where you're going to be like, I'm kind of bored of the single player, I want to go on multiplayer, and boom, multiplayer is also a desert with a horse with no name. What are you actually going to do? So at least if the game does have a lot of PvP stuff, you can jump in there and go, you know what? I'm going to go race against players. Oh, look, here's an event here. I don't have to be with players. And I do understand where players are coming from, though. Like, if they were to shut the entire game down, or, probably go, you know what? It's been 10 years. The game is gone. let's be real, guys. I feel like Ubisoft is probably one of the only things I've actually seen do that. For example, here we do know Need for Speed 2015 is connected to online as well, which I do believe right now might be the only Need for Speed game like that. At least I think it is. But Need for Speed 2015 is going to be going on 9 years old now at the end of this year here in November. And I personally don't think they're going to be shutting the games down. Like, yeah, we do know EA is doing some questionable things basically everywhere. We can't agree, though, that I don't think they're just going to kill that game like that, because a lot of players are still playing it and actually enjoying the game for that matter. And I just really feel like a lot of people are not going to be like, oh, you know what, this game is kind of done, guys, like they're going to end it, and boom, we're moving over to the next Need for Speed game, even though that's the only one that's technically online, whereas all the other games are going to be offline and an online aspect. And a lot of players have argued that Need for Speed Unbound doesn't have the best design with it. But overall, though, guys, I would say a lot of players might end up being a bit worried about the game being online only, which I have to admit, yeah, it is going to be online, but I don't think it's going to be axed like the Crew 1 was. And I think we can all agree, guys, that is easily not the best way to do that. Like, a lot of players might look at the Crew 2 or even Motorfest and go, you know what? Why would I actually buy this game if I can't even play it eventually, or they're most likely going to shut it down? Why even play it? And I can't even argue that. No. And you know what's funny is I can't even argue that. That's a pretty valid argument. Man, that's crazy. But overall, though, guys, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. I do understand with it being online only isn't the best thing ever, but I also have to admit, I don't think it's the worst thing either.